and most of you don't. If I say your name wrong, I'm doing it on purpose. I'll ask you some very personal things like, is this your name? And do you want me to call you anything else? Make sure it's not offensive. I might ask you where you're from, some other extremely personal things like that. Thomas. Here. Bernards. Where are you from, Thomas?
Germany and Taiwan.
I've gotten that one. So you're new to our school. Are you new to Guangzhou as well?
No, I lived here when I was kindergarten.
You're coming back?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Were you at our school in kindergarten?
I was in Yulon.
And where were you prior to coming to Guangzhou? Just recently?
Suzhou.
How's your German? You say good, right? You say good? Pretty sure that's German. Good. Thomas. You go by Thomas? Right, easy. Queenie. Yes. That's fine, that works. You go by Queenie. Where are you from, Queenie?
Canada.
Whereabouts? All right, this one I'm going to say perfectly. Yunjo. That was wrong, right? Wrong. Wait. See, you see what we did? We messed everybody with the whole affirmative negative thing. So no, that was not right. June. Jenny. Jenny. It's easy. You go by Jenny. Where are you from, Jenny? Where? Jenny, Thomas, Queenie, easy. Sophie, Elizabeth, Marie, Elliot. Do you have any other names? All right, 4 is enough, right? I'll call you Sophie. Are you okay with that, Marie?
Not Marie.
Did you hear that? That was confusing. I'm going to call you Sophie. Are you okay with that, Marie?
No.
So you want me to call you Marie?
Sophie.
I'm going to call you Sophie. Are you okay with that, Marie? Okay, cool, Sophie. Good. Unless Elizabeth creeps in at some point. You okay with that?
No.
Yeah, we'll stick with Sophie. Gordon. There he is. Yeah, I don't think I ask you. Where are you from, Gordon? Canada. Whereabouts? As well. Queenie, Gordon, Vancouver. Jisoo. That's right, isn't it? So you're from Korea. Whereabouts? Where in Korea? Busan. Did you say Busan, right? Are you changing your answer? You are. All right. We don't know the difference. Just wherever you want to be from Korea. Make it up. I'll find out later. Mean J. Is that right?
Jay.
J.
Can I go by Martin?
What's that?
Can I go by Martin?
You can go by, yeah, anything you want. Martin. Martin. Gordon. Thomas. Stay there, boys, for a couple of days. Where are you from?
Korea.
Whereabouts?
Daejeon.
Daejeon. Did you raise your hand a few minutes ago about being new to our school? Where were you before, in Korea or someplace else?
Korea.
What school were you at?
Just a normal.
Korean school. All right. All right. Eugene.
It's Carrie.
Carrie. Where are you from, Carrie?
Taiwan.
Beatrice. Nice. Where are you from, Beatrice? Toronto. Here we go. Now we got some names. Johan. There we go. Josh, you got a lot of options there, Josh. Where you from, Josh? Philippines. Whereabouts? Yeah. All right. Gilliam? Jillian. You go by Jillian? It's easy. Where you from, Jillian? Canada? The most Canadian class I've had in a long time. 50% of you. Songlin, is that right? Is that right? Songlin? Songlin or Songlin? All right. Where are you from? China. And you're new to our school this year, right?
Yes.
Great. Min Ting Young. Where are you from, Min Ting? Where's your sister right now? Where? She's in Jersey. Did you go see her off over there? No. When did she leave?
Yesterday.
Wow. Oh, good for her. Smarter than your sister? Seriously? Wow. That's cute. Did she talk about her English grade? Did she say anything about her English grade?
Yeah.
Did she say she was cool with that? Was she happy or upset? She probably would. She did good. Everybody's here. All right. Who had a nice summer? Yeah, Josh, what'd you do?
I went to Cebu in no, it's a famous tourist spot.
Where in Cebu? Just Cebu. Sophie, have a nice summer? It's all right? Anything? Anybody else? I'm not gonna make you write about your summer. What'd you do? I didn't ask you your name, did I? Are you on my list? What's your name? All right, what's your last name, guy?
Jay.
What's your first name? Colin.
Yeah.
Interesting. I trust you. I know you know more than this, but let me see that schedule. I didn't say your name. I did say your name. Oh man, we're gonna struggle with this year, aren't we? It's all your fault. I did not say your name. No. Can I see your schedule? I trust you too. I just want to see that schedule. Whose name? Right. Sometimes the computer doesn't say which piece of file. Got your, And are you new to our school or not? No. I can say coffee. Coffee. Means something in Welsh, doesn't it? Something in Welsh. Either means coffee or means I like. I'm not sure which one it means. It's all right. How's your English? I think that's all that matters in this class, so you'd be okay. We don't get to Welsh until 10th grade. Roles and names. New. Reggie, I'm not sure right now on this list. What was your name again? Okay. I'll go talk to the nice people in the office and see what's up with them. 2, 3, 4, 6, 10, 16. So, no computers? Do you have your computers today? Always have it out. And I know maybe a couple stuff, we'll figure it out. But I will tell you this, I will never give you a piece of paper until your final exam. Unless we're gonna do some drawing, which might happen. Outside of that, that computer is gonna be everything for everything I give you. You're the readmission, right? Queen. No problem. Maybe you can sit with one of them for a few minutes. You'll be okay. You might get some paper today. But for now, you're probably fine. Most of the stuff that I'll ask you to look at will be on the screen. So, let's think about this. Every day when you come in, that should be on the screen. It's on that TV business, the other computer over there as well. Now, it will take you some time to figure some stuff out in this class, which I have no problems with that. Where's this? Where's this? For the first couple weeks, not a problem. Some of you, I will show you it's here, and you'll know it's there, and you'll never ask that question again. So, I'm completely patient with some of this stuff. Since you're new, completely patient, not a problem. But the more organized you are in terms of that computer, probably more so your browser. So I'm hoping you learned some stuff in this class, which isn't English or Welsh, but maybe some tech stuff too, hopefully. So you come into class every day, that thing's on the screen. That thing, which is our daily objectives, it's really just like a PowerPoint presentation. So what happens is, wherever I'm sitting at in Planet Internet, I'll write this thing up. I'll have it someplace else. Before we get to class, I'll put it up there. But since it's a presentation, each day is a slide. And sometimes this stuff will make a lot of sense to you. So if you came in here and you read that, you're like, okay, he's going to ask you my name, which you probably would have figured out anyhow. But what it does is it lets us know what we're going to do for each class period. It also, with that number 8, probably spend about 8 to 12 minutes on that. The numbers are never exact, but it lets us know that, well, we're going to spend a couple minutes on X and then a couple minutes on that. And it says like 50 or 60, it's like there's going to be a whole lot of time for that third thing. Sometimes there'll be 8 things on here, and we might just spend 2 minutes on one thing, 5 minutes on the next. So it's really sort of like there are objectives, but it's also like a list of the stuff we're going to have to do that. If we don't get to something, I'll let you know what you have to do. This you can get to on the Moodle. I'll tell you this about Moodle. All the stuff we need is on there. Some of it's not up to date. It might say 2013, but it's the same class. If I can get you to not go to Moodle, it's better for both of us. It's there. But it also exists someplace else on the internet. And sometimes Moodle's a little slow. It's got a lot of stuff and all, so we don't have to go there. It's there, but it might be easier not to. This exists on Moodle, but it also exists as its own webpage. So once you have this browser, and I'll show you this in a second, this URL, bookmark that. Or just copy the stuff, put it into a text document, put it into Evernote, put it wherever you need to put it. Say it's very important, save that guy, and you always have it, so you can quickly go with it. This will be updated every time we have class. Now, that being said, pay attention. You're not on only grade 9 class. It's the same class, it's the same course. But maybe, like with that calendar schedule thing, we might be doing something a little bit different from the other guys. It looks the same, it's the same document, but this will let you know that it's us. And I'll probably start calling you Group A and calling them Group B. It's the same class, but maybe a little bit different depending on how often we see each other. Because obviously, I'll see you guys 2 days, 1 week. I don't know what your grade A schedule looks like, so maybe this is nothing you're doing, maybe it's very new. And some days, if we start on Monday, I'll see you 3 days a week and that sort of thing. Because I see the other guys tomorrow. So it might, not a big deal, just something to think about. Like, is this us or is that the other group? Moodle, stuff's there. When you need to go to Moodle, I'll ask you to go to Moodle. It's not a problem. Things in Moodle are generally organized by what we're studying. So it's kind of like a unit. We'll go into stuff like that when we need to. The homework page. At the bottom, that PIBILOOCO. I write that down there because I like to tell people on the first day that we don't have homework in this class, and they get all excited and say we just call it something else. It's homework. We just don't call it homework. It's called PIBILUCO, which means Pre-IB Independent Learner Out of Class Obligation. stuff you have to do at home. Homework, it's homework. So this says, make amends revisions to creative writing piece 1. I will always put a little bit of homework right there. There's another document which exists on the internet. Don't worry about where all this stuff is. It will make sense after like 4 days. Trust me, it'll be automatic. If there's anything else a little bit more detailed about that, I'll have it the exact same thing on the homework page. It'll say what you have to do, and it'll also tell you when it's done. We'll look at it real quick because we got it open. And right now, it's completely blank. It usually looks like this. This is also kind of like a PowerPoint presentation. So I'll add a week, not a day, and each week will be on there at the bottom. So if you have to go back to a previous week, it'll be in that presentation. Some of the bigger stuff will be here. I'll tell you what it is, and I'll tell you when it's due. It could be probably 2 weeks from now. Never usually that far ahead. Sometimes it is. It's got the dates at the top. This one's quite old. It looks like this. Easy. Now, this blue stuff, once you access or can find this document and it's in your browser and you get the class, and some of you already have it in Moodle, good. If you don't, it's not a problem. That blue stuff you should be able to click on. You can click on this and it takes you to the page. All this stuff will be easy to find. I just like to put those links on there because I think it makes it a little bit quicker for all of us to get to stuff. And it does. Now, there is a document. It's a page. And our school has this thing called an Etherpad. And this one's called, here it comes. Show it to you, nice and big. Everybody but Queenie. Open that up real quick. You can look on with Minty. Thank you, Minty. Bookmark that, guy. Save it. Do whatever you got to do to make sure you don't forget that. etherpad.aisgz.org/9links. So if you were in grade 8 and 7 and 6 here, you probably have been on one of these Etherpads before. If not, don't worry about all the stuff at the bottom. Those are from kids who are now in grade 10. All this is really just a quick place for you to go and click on things. So all that stuff is someplace on Moodle. It might take you a while to find it on Moodle. Open up Moodle, click on Moodle, open up my page, open up this, go to that unit, click on that folder, open that guy. It's there. But when I get the class prepared, I'll just go ahead and copy the link, shove it on there, so it saves us some time. But these, and I think there's 4 on there right now, they're all extremely important. So if you can very carefully, open them up, or if you just really want to, go ahead and highlight all that. Be careful because you can't erase it from my document. Scroll up. Click on that and highlight all of that stuff on top. There you go. Just copy that. Put it anywhere. So what we have on this Etherpad document right now is you have the direct links to what we're doing in class, which is the daily objectives. You have the direct link to the homework page, which will work in conjunction with the daily objectives. You have a direct link to this independent reading document, which we'll be using for the whole year. And as promised, as you were told in grade 8, first 2 days, grade 9 English, based on your summer readings. Make sure you come back to school with having read at least 2 books. And we'll talk quite a bit about the independent reading and what you have to do with that. We'll talk about it a little bit today. We'll go ahead and get into what your first assignment will look like. So all I gotta do is click on this guy, stuff opens up, save those links, and you have them forever. Very important. Sometimes they're a little slow opening up. But once you've opened them up in your browser recognizes it and it opens super quick. Easy. So don't lose that. How about everybody open up this guy, the fourth one. This one right here says Independent Reading 2015-2016. See if that doesn't. Excellent. So it does open. If you are new to our school, do not worry about this. I mean, do pay attention, but don't physically worry about it. Now, I came downstairs and talked to a couple of you last year. A number of our other high school English teachers came down and talked to you as well. So at some point in time, all the grade 8 English students from last year had a visit from one of our high school English teachers talking about this independent reading. So every time you come to this class, you have to have your independent reading with you. Anybody got something today? You do? Awesome. You got it. Hold it out so people see that. And you were sitting in that class. I talked to you last year, didn't I? Yes. How come you don't remember the one person, but I remember one out of 20.
I remember Mr.
Okay, it wasn't you. Must have been Maria. Okay. Yeah? Can I see that guy? What's her name? You can't show some shit in that. That's the one name. Obviously made into a film because I recognize this. All right. Cool. I don't care what you read. You're supposed to choose that. So if you know what you like and that's what you're into, fantastic. We'll talk a lot about what we read and maybe what might be a good idea and all that stuff. That's not a problem. The big thing is every time you come to class, make sure you got it. If you finished it, fantastic. Try to find some time in between whenever you finish that before you get back here and get something new. I'll never be upset with you for finishing a book. You know, I mean, and if you somehow you finish it right before you get here or whatever, no big deal. But do your best. It's one of our daily obligations. A computer, fully charged, and a book. Now, that being said, this same independent reading or whatever you're currently reading also needs to be in your hand when you go to your advisory. God, that's an expensive book. I know. Or you do Canadian dollars. Cool. Now we'll look at this. So what we're going to do with this, if you can't read this, I'll just paraphrase. Don't worry about that bit. One thing I will say, next Tuesday in class, very simple, you get an invite to join the grade 9 blog. So it's an independent reading blog. Throughout the course of the year, and this document will help you out with that, I will ask you for a minimum to create 6 things. I call them things because they're not assignments. Some are tasks, some are like small little projects. They're all things that you're going to create. I think that's probably the key word, based on the books and the other things, because I won't always use that term book because it might not necessarily be a book per se. It might be a novel, it might be nonfiction, it could be some sort of biography. And there's a number of things you can do. You can record your face with video, reviewing the book. Do you like it? What's good about it? What's the basic plot structure? What do these characters do? Would you suggest that someone else read that? It could be a whole 3 to 4 minute video. It's pretty easy. That's an option. So we have in here, I currently have 10 different tasks you can do. You will create or submit or finish one of these every 6 weeks. So gives you some time frame to do it. So what happens is at the end of the year, more or less, you'll have completed 6 of these. all of your products will be posted on the grade 9 independent reading blog. All that stuff we'll do together. So every time I ask you to do something new, we'll do it in class. I'll walk you through the process. Some of you can do it like that. Depending on what it is, you might need some more time. It's not a problem. So, first and foremost, always have something to read. Read. And then as we go through the year, because we have a whole year just to do these very 6 potentially not so complicated tasks, this will keep coming up. I'm showing it to you today because that's what we're getting into right now in day 1. And it's going to be something we go back to. Every day you're going to have that book. So read it. Independent reading is like a fundamental part of this course. Cool. Now, I know this is a lot to think about, but if you go home and start looking at this, you realize a lot of this stuff is very creative. If you come up with an idea about something else you would rather do, or how you might want to change something, come back and tell me. I'm sure I'll like it, and we'll add your idea to the list, that kind of thing. So you have this link, bookmark it, save the URL, don't lose it, because you're not going to get this one printed out. That's where it's going to stay. Any questions about this guy? Anybody check out a book from the library this year? Your cards are supposed to work. I've been told they will work. I'm pretty sure we are going to the library next week. But that being said, you still need to have that book ahead of time. So if you did not come back to class with some kind of book, find one. The library is a good start. Good. Now, going back to this guy. How about you click on the first one at the top? One that says Independent Creative Writing, Day 1. Guess on the right back. You could be our paper girl today, right? Now, this is what we're going to get into. A lot of the stuff you'll be doing in high school might be drastically different from some middle school stuff. It might not be. We'll see what you do with this. So based on what you read over the summer, and here's the thing, if you're coming in new to our school and you're like, I didn't know I was supposed to read something, you probably did. If you didn't, not a problem. You can think about anything you've read ever. It could probably be something you read from your class last year. So whatever, you pick about any book that you are very familiar with so that you can draw upon that. Everybody else who's coming from AISG, grade 8 English, based on at least one of those 2 works you read last year, I should say based on one of at least 2 of those works that you read, this is what you're going to do. And we'll skip down to this bit right here, right? So you're going to write a creative piece today. I'm going to start it today. I don't expect it to be done today because we're even on a small change, a bridge schedule today. Option A, have a look. Diary entry, perspective. How we understand a story is heavily based on the perspective or how the story is told. Right? What is the narrative of your work? Who can think, just give me an example of one of the titles. Nancy, what did you read over the summer?
Escape from Capital.
How was that story told? Was there like a, he did this, he thought that, or I did that? This is how I think. Third person. Could you read that character's mind?
Yes.
Could you read all the characters' minds?
No.
Fine. So just like the main character. Okay, cool. Just think about one of the 2, and you might realize that, I like both my works, both my books. I'm going to give you 2 options to choose from, but maybe one of those works is better with option B than option A. Option A is we're looking at who tells your story, and what other perspective can we think about with that story. So, how does this affect our interpretation of the protagonist and the main character? Now, everybody thinks that they're right all the time, right? So you get to fight with your sister, right? And aren't not fight. Who's right? You or her? Of course you are.
Sister.
Sister. Oh, yeah, you would say. But if we got right the Min Wei story, it'd be very different from the Min Ting story. So that's the whole perspective thing. So think about like a character in the book that we might not 100% completely be sure about what they think about something. And now you can kind of answer that question. So if I were to ask you, think about some argument you had with your sister, you already know what you're going to put because you're thinking in your head all the time. Your diary is basically already there. So you're justifying why she's wrong and you're right. Try to think about, what would she say in that argument? Not to your face, but like being very honest with herself, because that's what diaries do, right? That's what people are very honest. So if you have a character who might be like, you have a book where the guy is the good guy. What does the bad guy think? Does he does he actually think he's the bad guy? Sometimes you have like the evil guys, like the maniacal mustache or Marvel Comics or whatever. Well, what would he say in his diary? And what kind of voice can you give him, which your story didn't really give that guy? That might make a lot of sense to you right now. It might not make any sense. We'll continue talking about that. Here's the bad guy. The bad guy. Maybe the bad guy doesn't actually know he's a bad guy. How would the antagonist justify his or her actions? How would the bad guy view the good guy? Would he be like, oh yeah, he really is good, I can't stand him? Or be like, would he really think the good guy's a bad guy? So you can tell us what the character, which we might not have heard a lot from your story, you can give him voice or her voice and justify what they might be thinking in the form of a diary. Creative. Option two, or should option B, I think it's called. It actually has a couple of options, but both of them are going to be a letter. A text type which you should be familiar with. I'm not really, not in 2015, but at least know what a letter is. You've probably seen a few. So the first option or type of letter is a letter of recommendation. Anybody ever apply for some kind of summer camp or some kind of business? You ask your teachers to write or change schools. I get this all the time from middle school. You raise your hand there, right? What did you ask the teacher? Ask the teacher for that recommendation? Who did you ask?
It's the teacher from my old school.
To go to this school. Did you get to read it?
No.
It worked, right? Obviously you're here. They didn't say horrible things about it. Think this might not work with one of your works. It might work for both. It might not work for either. Think about one of those characters. If they wanted something, like change of school or maybe getting a job, and some of that might be a little weird or creative with some of your characters, who would they ask in that work to write them a letter of recommendation? What would they say? So this is really based on like characterization. What did you say you read in the team early summer?
Escape from Cat 14.
Who's the main character's protagonist?
Shin Dong-hyuk.
Is that a likable person or not? Did they become a better person at the end?
They were always just kind of okay.
Or is
He's
it
like a North Korean who escaped from the military.
Wow. Okay, so you might even create like a fictitious situation where he's like now an adult. Was he a child when he escaped or an adult? Alright, so that's it. So once he's gotten out, then maybe someone writes a letter of recommendation, and that's what they talk about. All the stuff he's went through, and now he's a better person, and he was able to do this. Does that make sense?
That's the book.
That's my point. So you've created this fictitious situation, and now I can read that and understand that character. You're going to show me you really get that protagonist if you ever write this letter. So you might make up the person who's going to write the letter of recommendation. It depends on what type of character you have and what you're going to say about it. Anybody have a character who might ask for a letter and it might not be that nice? Some of your characters aren't always just like really good. There might be like, oh, they need to work on this. Or, all right. Your teachers don't ever say that. They're always like super nice. But they're probably thinking, maybe you have a character who's flawed. The second character, which might work might work really well with a very flawed character, is this complaint, a letter of complaint. Has anybody been wronged in one of your books? Like a victim? What might they say? And what might they complain about? And is there some logical place that they could write that letter to, or a person they could write that letter to? Lots of our stories, and we have conflict, is between people. So maybe that letter is like, I don't like the way you treated me, kind of thing. It could be from an entire work, like they have a horrible, horrible mother, and that's the entire story. Or it could be from one chapter or one scene. So you kind of really have three options here, because the options here with the letters are quite different. One's very potentially positive, talking about the good characters character has, or qualities a character has. The other one's generally of a negative sense. This first option could be anything with that perspective. So think about both works you read, or if you read a bunch, think about many of those characters. These don't even have to be fictitious characters. It could be, you could have read a biography in this work. First one deals with perspective. Think about somebody in a book where we don't get all their perspective. What did you read in English class last year in grade 8? All right, good. Let's talk about that. Who's the main character? Who's the protagonist? Charlie?
Charlie Gordon.
Charlie Gordon. Good guy, right? It's okay? Decent person? Or a bad person?
He's mentally challenged.
At the beginning,
So he changes for the worse towards the end?
then he loses his intelligence.
Wow. Okay. How do the people around him react when he has his mental decline?
The woman that he loved, when he was at his peak, really mean because he lost his emotional sense.
Yep.
So then he kind of hurt her, and then she went, his intelligence declined. He didn't really know what happened.
So all that being said, how upset do we know that girl was? Do we know exactly how she felt, or we just know he wasn't cool? Do we ever get her insight? How upset, or her feelings? So if we don't, this would be an example. You could use her for that diary thing. She could talk about how upsetting the whole situation was, how much she loved or still loves him, the difficult decision she's having to take to, I guess, leave him, or whatever happened in the story. Or that same character, if you're focused on her, she could write that letter of complaint to him. You might not understand this because of whatever situation you're going through, but this is where we used to be. It's unfair of you to do this and all that. So even with one character, you might be able to apply that to a couple of these options. So step one is to think about which checks I have and how that's going to potentially work with one of these writing options. When you think you have a good combination, because a lot of high school English stuff is about combinations. We always tell you you're going to do this. You get to pick and choose what you want based on what things make sense. Nice. I will ask you to write a thing called a rationale. So think about this, right? Think about we're going to have a grade 9 drama, a play. All of you want to be in this play. I know you're like, I don't want to be. Pretend. You're like, oh, I so want to be in the play. High school, that's a show, right? Yeah, everybody wants to be in this thing. So you're all going to come in and do some kind of 5-minute performance. You've seen this like in a movie or something, right? People do like auditions. What do they do before they start acting? What? I really want to. Maybe. But if we we have to know that character, right? I just can't start acting, you know. I'm a tree. You know, it's like, I don't understand. Oh, you're a tree. That's good. You have to sort of justify. Then I say, the following you're about to see is my interpretation of this person in this, you know what I'm saying? They segue what you're about to see. It creates, so you have a better understanding like why this makes sense. I just start reading a letter about, you're such a jerk. Oh, I hate you. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, wow, all right, somebody's upset. But here, you would tell me all of that. There's a guy, his name's Charlie Gordon. This is what happens to him. He's in a relationship with whatever her name was. He used to be good. Charlie's a jerk. Things go bad. Oh, I get all that. And now, that diary entry makes a lot more sense. So it is preface, right? You say stuff like this. I picked this character because, for the same reasons we said we could pick her. She's in a relationship. We never really get to, we know she's upset, but we never get to hear her words. That's the kind of stuff you'll see in that rationale. It's when you kind of, it's very small. It's maybe 100 words, where you briefly justify why this character makes sense with that writing option. The same with the letter, right? In this story, I'll say my rationale. I read a story about this guy. This guy does this. He is an orphan, is surrounded by a bunch of horrible people, but decides to be different from them and grows up and becomes a really, really positive member of society, right? That works really well with that letter recommendation, and that's the kind of stuff you'll put in that rationale. Picked him because he has a lot of very positive qualities. People would respect him because he could have easily become a bad person himself, but he did the difficult thing and decided to be a good person. And when I read that letter recommendation, it makes a lot more sense. So step one for you is think about what character or characters you might be able to choose and apply to one of these. We'll call them 3 options because the 2 letters are actually quite different. So you can pick a character from something you read and do the diary entry, or take that character and the other character and write a letter recommendation for that character. Who would write it? What would they say? Or that letter of complaint. What would they say? Who would they write that to? Who would care about their complaint? One other really fantastic little thing to think about, because there's a lot of stuff to think about in this class, at the end. If you know your character, what sort of word choice would he or she use? What kind of vocabulary would they use? What kind of language would they use? Because if you're picking somebody who's allegedly a university professor, then that might read very differently from the guy who dropped out of high school in grade 9. He might say the same stuff. This guy's awesome, you know, or young Bartholomew is one of the most, you know, saying same idea, but very different ways of saying it. What sort of register? And that kind of goes back to what like register is the sort of formality that someone has. If that girl is writing that diary, she might actually be addressing him in that diary. So they have a very close relationship. So she might talk to him. One, she's very upset. And they're very close. And so that sort of angry language would be very different from a formal letter complaint angry language. Still 2 angry people, but different ways of expressing it. And the last bit, what does a letter look like? What kind of components do letters have? Do we know? What do they have? Yeah. If you're writing to somebody, you address them. To whom it may concern, or dear so-and-so. I thought you said date. I think you did. Date at the top, that kind of thing. They have these sort of, we call them conventions. And when you pick it up, it's like, oh, this is a letter. Do diaries have like little structural things that let you know it's a diary? They might say dear diary. Does anybody actually do that anymore? I think, don't raise your hand. You might. For whatever reason, somebody started writing dear diary. Do you show your diary to people? Then how do we all know that people write Dear Diary? Hmm. Interesting. Maybe no one actually does that. All right. So you have a lot to think about. Some of you like already have an idea. I bet you do. Some of you don't. Think about it. If you have to ask me about this, that's fantastic. Because the more you and I can talk about things, we'll talk about them out loud. Other people will be like, oh, I understand. That's a good idea. What are you thinking? What's one of the works you read over the summer? Divergent. What's it about?
In the city, they're like separated into 5 factions.
Ooh, makes sense. Divergent.
Yeah. So then there's like this group of people that go like Captain Nicolai. So they're taking us to society, like peace and stuff.
Got it. But are they really the good guys or the bad guys? They're just there. Ah, so you don't know. So do we ever hear from those guys?
New characters.
No. Do we hear directly from the people who's decided to split the whole thing up? Do we know why they did that? Maybe there's your perspective thing.
But yeah, to ensure peace.
Could you write a letter to the government from one of the people who's not a divergent saying, well, maybe they're not so bad? That'd work, right? Which would kind of do both. It would be like, okay, I'm not a divergent, so I can't really say, but one could understand why they do that kind of thing. And maybe because, going back to the language, because they don't want to get in a whole lot of trouble, maybe they're kind of being nice to the divergents, but not being overly, you know what I'm saying? So using a language wouldn't get them in trouble. Something to think about. Red, what'd you read? Okay. Sounds familiar. I haven't read it. What was the second one? You read Of Mice and Men? Seriously? You cheated. We're supposed to read that like next week. You're ahead. What's that book about? I don't know. It's about Lenny and George. Awesome. All right, so I can go ahead and tell you. Don't pick George because he's a lot like Charlie Gordon after the fact. Crooks. Remember Crooks? Yeah, we don't know what he thinks. We know he's smart. It's like 1920s America, and there's a bunch of white guys who aren't too smart and poor. Everybody's poor. But there's that one African American guy, right? He's different. And he's supposed to be kind of smart, but we don't know because he's got all those books and stuff. He'd be a good guy to pick for that diary entry. Because now I'd be like, oh, he is smart. Or, oh, he's not angry, or he is angry, you choose. There's a lots of good stuff you can do with that. Why'd you pick up my submit? You just pick that one. You cheat. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem if you read ahead. So what we have here is you got a little bit of homework, and it's changed from what it says up there. It's not a big deal. When I say that homework word, I really mean it. So write some stuff down. I don't give you a whole lot of homework. So you're like, what, you just made what? You just made a poop face? Oh, good. Phew, you scared me. You're like, oh yeah, that's what you're. Oh, my bad. You're like, yes. I really thought that's how you going. You wanted a lot of homework. Okay, that was shocking. The majority of the stuff you're going to learn we'll do in class. So we'll try to get as much out of those 80 minutes as we can. So simply go home, formally pick an idea, and then look at that rationale thing, which is very small. When I say small, I mean it's probably like 5, 6 sentences. Come back with the 6-sentence justification about one, why the character you pick makes sense with that writing task. If you pick the bit about, well, I'm going to pick the Crooks thing from Of Mice and Men because one, in the story, it seems like he's a lot of things. He acts like he's angry, but he might not be such a bad guy. He has a bunch of books about smart things, so it kind of suggests he actually really is smart. And in that diary, I'm going to answer those things. I'm going to show you that, yes, he is smart. I know he's not very angry. He's just kind of old and tired, which is not the same thing as being a bad person. So that's what your rationale would say. Why did you pick this character? What about them makes sense with the writing task you're going to choose? So if you're going to write a letter recommendation saying this is a good person, what about that person makes sense with that? And that's all you got to do for Friday. So you come back to class on Friday. There'll be a place for you to put that. Just have it typed up. That's it. And if you don't have your computer by then, Queenie, not a big deal. You can just show me the piece of paper. You'll probably get it tomorrow. And we'll do our best to be patient with that re-imaging thing because a lot of you won't know when it's going to happen. They're just going to come by. So what we'll do for the majority of the class on Friday is once we've shared all our ideas, which will be very quick and easy, then we can be like, that's a great idea. Start writing. Or I like that, but maybe if you were to think about this, and if you like that, then you go with that. So what I like to do with any of this stuff is, especially with the large writing pieces, no one will ever ask you, go home and write an essay. Never. It'll probably be horrible. I don't mean that in a bad way. It just won't be what I want it to be. So we have like steps. Step one, let's just talk about what a good idea would be, what might work. You think about it, come back. That's good. Continue to work. Then we talk again. And then once you have a thing going on and we both get it and it makes sense to us, then you go ahead and do all that work. I want you to run off and do a lot of work and come back and be like, I don't think you understood what we wanted you to do. That makes sense, right? Yeah. Okay. Questions about that? Good. Let's look at that schedule. Cool. So technically, I mean, you got 12 minutes. You can finish this before you leave. Thomas. Jenny. Yeah, look at that. Jenny Cho. Sophie. Colin. Jisoo. Mark and Kim. Reg. Strange what's on here now. Angela? Yeah. Beatrice. Josh. Julia. Songlin. 19. One person I didn't call. What's her name again? Hello. Taiwan. Canada or Taiwan, or both? Taiwan. How'd you hand up? Jenny. Write the rationale now. Yeah, I told you it's homework, but like I said, if you can finish it before you leave, it's not homework. If you want to finish it before you leave and ask me to look at it, that's why I'm here. And of course, if you don't currently have an independent reading selection, make sure you get a book, whatever you want, or you come back to class. All right. Sit, you know, you don't get a card. You do this. Maybe we trust it. You were here yesterday, right? Your homeroom teacher didn't give you what is your ID card? Yeah. Homeroom teacher. So you didn't get an ID card? Who's your homeroom teacher? Right down there, right? We'll do that one. We'll talk about that. Probably on Friday or Tuesday. That's what, hold on, because I think, Nature's library, doing something to do with that, so it might change. So we're gonna wait. I think she has a new one, which is, 2015, 2016. Nah, just wait. We'll do it. Yeah, yeah, well. So where were you last year? Where were you last year?
Sometimes.
She can think about anything she's read ever in her entire life and see if one of these options is I don't care which book it is, which character. You let me know and that's the rationale. If, here's the thing, if you feel that's be a better piece, I'd rather you do some, because if you want to go with some other characters that you're into, yeah, that password, if you know, email, everything is the same password. Maybe. New people, sometimes it takes them a couple of days for the school to figure that out.